Welcome to the Evolutionaries Podcast. I'm Randy Harrington.
And I'm Carmen Valakay.
And we are talking about some crazy stuff today. This is very important. If you are watching any news or reading anything, then you are seeing the fruit of what we're calling unintended consequences.
Dun, dun, dun.
It happens everywhere, left and right. Unintended consequences all over the place. And the basic idea that we're coming to here is that there are so many great plans in the world, so many things moving forward. There's so much change happening. And then all of a sudden, all this other change happens that we weren't expecting.
Right. And usually this is because of a good idea or a good response, something that's people trying to be responsible or act out of good intentions. For example, anybody who's been reading Business Week in the last week knows all these mortgage regulations are coming our way. And, this is a response to trying to keep us from having a bubble ever again.
That's right. I mean, it's very clear that there were some out-of-control companies that moved our economy to the brink of disaster. And so our political machine is out there saying, hey, we can't have this. We've got to fix this. And so they're putting into place a whole slew of regulations that are adding a tremendous amount of complexity to the process of opening and managing loans, mortgage loans.
Right.
There's a lot of angst right now among mortgage servicers and a lot of question about the secondary market and how it's going to work out. And it's gotten to the point, however, where there's some substantial unintended consequences here. A lot of these regulations were put into place to, control and constrain the major players in the market. Right? The people that are doing gazillions of mortgage loans every month. Unfortunately, there are lots of financial institutions that have asset sizes of $1 billion or $500 million or $2 billion, much smaller players in the marketplace that are doing a lot of mortgage origination and servicing. And they're now screaming and raising their hands and saying, hey, wait a minute, these regulations are so intensive, expensive, and oppressive, we're not sure we can be in this business anymore. And so the unintended consequence is that these regulations that were designed to control the big guys are choking a lot of the competition out of the picture.
Meanwhile, the big guys often have so many other lines of business. For example, I have a mortgage with Schwab, and we called to do a refinance, and they said they're getting out of the mortgage business. They've sold it to Quicken Loans, and they're going to let it play itself out, and they're going to move on to some other lines of business that make them money. So they're not really suffering.
That's right. And, when you see businesses like Quicken Loans, they're just, completely oriented to it. This is just a speed bump for them. It's not going to be a big deal. And I'm hopeful that it will have the effect of policing better on the large side of things. But boy, is it a problem for the smaller financial institutions. And you really kind of want to scratch your head. Same story being told in the world of payments. A lot going on there as it relates to the use of plastic cards and cash services and Visa, MasterCard and whatnot. And you know what we're finding? We're finding that companies like PayPal and others are able to completely end run these regulations. And while they are providing an alternative payment solution, it's really fundamentally changing the way things work because it's disintermediating the banks and the financial institutions altogether. They're just being cut out of the picture. Now, I don't know
is
if that's
that good?
Is
that bad? We don't know.
But I can tell you,
but I'm pretty sure nobody has a plan for it.
Exactly.
And that's the place where we run into those unintended consequences.
That's right. What happens when Walmart and iTunes are your bank?
Right. Or Starbucks.
Or Starbucks.
Whatever,
right. Yeah. I mean, it's a very, very different world.
Well, I was listening to NPR on the drive back from Rhode Island to the airport last week and heard a story about, here's a great example of good intentions. Scientists have had a tremendous breakthrough in the ability to have a better process for freezing eggs for women.
Yes.
And they worked on this to solve a very real problem for women in their 20s who are diagnosed with cancer. And that women 27 or younger would be able then, when they get that diagnosis, to quickly freeze their eggs and have the option then later to still have a pregnancy.
So they've gone through radiation and chemo, but then they can...
Exactly. And so this is for young women diagnosed with cancer. Wow.
Yeah.
What a great idea. And so the biggest market that's just breaking down the doors now is Jewish women, Orthodox Jewish women over age 35. all the rabbis are telling them, okay, everybody, run and freeze your eggs. It's great. It's the way to go. And the doctors and the scientists are saying, oh my gosh, this isn't what we intended at all. In fact, we don't even know if, these eggs are viable. This is craziness. This isn't what this was for.
Right.
And yet this is what's happening.
It's kind of a weird social media story is what it sounds like to me.
There you go.
But yeah, there you go. So, just yet another unintended consequence. I have one more example I want to share. Back to the eggs for just a second. It turns out that Oregon Health Sciences University is doing other things with those frozen eggs as it relates to cancer research that I think was also not in the intended script for what these original, scientists were involved with. So that's just crazy.
There you go.
There you go.
All sorts of things.
So
happen.
here's my story of travel lately. I was just in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Never been there.
I had never been there either. It's a neat town. It's a beautiful town. It's got these big prairie vista kind of views out there. The people are quite nice, but I will tell you, I've never been in a stranger place in my life because, and I've been some strange. So I'm driving down the road, and I am not making this up. If you know, or if you've been to Bismarck, you know I'm speaking the truth. Literally every business has a flashing sign out front telling you what they will do to hire you.
Wow.
Like right outside my hotel window, I could look across the street and I could see a Subway. And the Subway had a big flashing sign that said $300 signing bonus, time and a half after 8 p.m., full medical benefits.
This is Subway sandwiches.
This is Subway sandwiches that we know and love, right?
Wow.
So every single fast food place.
So I can get a signing bonus to work at Subway
sandwiches. Every single fast food joint, every restaurant, every hotel, every movie theater, everything I saw was...
So what's going on in Bismarck?
Well,
what
it
do
turns
they know
out
that the rest of America hasn't.
There is an oil boom in Bismarck. They are fracking up there. They are fracking like crazy, and they are pulling a lot of oil out of the ground, and it has made a boom town out
it's a gold rush.
It is a big-time gold rush. So I'm listening to the radio, and I hear the following ad. I had heard a bunch of these ads, but this one was my favorite. The ad sounded just like this. You know that everybody wants to hire you, but we want to hire you more. Come down to the Red Lion between 9 and noon. Bring your resume, and we're going to give you the best deal ever. Yes, we're going to put you with 16 different employers who are going to give you this and that and this and that and this and that and this. And it was just like amazing. There was zero unemployment around there. I mean, it's just amazing. So obviously, huge amounts of money pouring into this little Bismarck, North Dakota
I
town.
hear some unintended consequences coming.
Serious unintended consequences. First of all, I don't know where you are on the fracking thing environmentally, but I can tell you that there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of trucks. There's a lot of rumbling. There's a lot of stuff happening.
Big debate.
There. Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing is that the people that are in the town that have been there forever are kind of going, yeah, it's kind of nice because my house was worth $150,000. Now it's worth $350,000. But I can't really sell it because the $300,000 house is now worth $500,000.
Right.
$600,000. So they have equity, but they can't really do much with it, and that's kind of a problem. Plus, you've got a whole bunch of largely guys coming to work these fields.
The gold rush did draw a certain,
it's
demographic.
a Wild West cowboy kind of mentality of these oil workers.
So they're flooding the town.
They're flooding the town, and what do? They work 60 hours a week, and this is Bismarck.
Time to relax.
And there ain't nothing to do. Nothing against Bismarck. Well, I take that back. They sell ammunition everywhere in Bismarck. They sell,
All right.
so you can go and get a little hammered and shoot something.
Oh, okay.
So the townspeople are kind of like they have very mixed feelings about what is the biggest economic boom I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
Unintended consequences.
So we think that there is a tie to evolutionaries and unintended consequences, yes?
We think they cause it.
We think they might be the source. Yeah. Well, what we really believe is that it's probably evolutionaries who are behind these great ideas, new waves of technology, or good intended changes.
Right.
And when this happens to an evolutionary, you get your idea. We've both been there.
On a daily basis.
Yeah. You start to fall in love a little bit with your idea.
Your idea becomes your baby.
Yeah.
And the idea is everything, and you'll do anything for it. And as soon as you start thinking that, as soon as you fall in love with that idea, you have just invited in a whole line of unintended consequences because you're not thinking properly at that point.
Right. Well, you're in a honeymoon phase with your idea. And meanwhile, you're not getting any negative information about your idea, either because you don't want to hear it, or because the people who love you and care about you the most respect you, and they see you so happy they don't want to disillusion you.
Right. They don't want to. They don't want to be the ones that
So they say,
bring you
sure.
down. Sure, that's a great idea. Absolutely. They in human relationships they call this stage euphoria. You have a euphoria experience with your idea, and euphoria comes from the Greek word euphos, which means blind. So you literally go blind, and we see this happening with evolutionaries. Now, here's what we've done so far. We've explained this idea of unintended consequences. What we want you to do as listeners is just look at the newspaper, look at your own organization, and think about the things that you have been involved with, the things that you see that are important, that are creating these unintended consequences. So the first step is just identifying this phenomenon.
Just look around. That's all we're asking. And you will see this everywhere.
And then we have some solutions for you.
We do. And this has taken quite some time, I think, to even spell out the problem. And,
That's right.
And so we ask you to go away and reflect a little bit on the problem. And we will bring you solutions in our next Evolutionaries podcast.
And we, of course, welcome your feedback. If you have ideas, if you have examples of unintended consequences, we'd love to hear about those. Check out our Facebook page. Check out evolutionariesbook.com and let us know some unintended consequences. And also, if you have ideas about how to beat that problem, we're very interested in that. But you're going to hear our ideas at our next podcast.